What's going on, guys? Scotty GLL coming at you with another epic podcast with our good friend D. This will be about our fourth podcast together. Is coming off an epic session, like one of our most legendary sessions to date. It was honestly, I've never seen anything quite like it. It was really a good send off because now we got the pickup house in Atlanta. So, um, anyway, D, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, man? The floor is yours, my friend.
It was the most epic that we've had. I knew it would be something special. We didn't know it would quite be like this. Scotty's moving to Atlanta. Well, he has moved now. I was a little bummed about that, but we're still going to keep in touch and do regular training sessions because he keeps getting me better and better. And he can see the stuff that nobody else can see. So I said, look, let's do one last one while you're still down here. I just have a feeling there's something in the air. And stuff was crazy from the jump where we were catching looks and getting smiles. And normally, girls in Brickell are all little wannabe fitness influencers or sugar babies, or it is peak narcissism. Their eyes are glued to their phone or straight ahead, headphones, sunglasses on, and the day just did not start like that.
Yeah, it was unbelievable, man. It was almost like it was so almost out of character for Brickell that I was like, dude, it almost feels like Brickell is telling me like that, stay. They're giving me one last pitch to really decide to make a stay at Brickell in Miami. So it was so bizarre. I couldn't come up with an explanation for it. It was so crazy. We were getting looks like crazy, dude. Some of the stories were just insane. I mean, girls following me in that little cafe where you hit on that blonde
that was the
chick.
very first. That was the very first one. That was a brunette chick. You're getting it all. I think you're getting some of it confused, but because there was a lot of it. So I'll just give the guys the numbers up front and some of the highlights, and then we'll get into it. So over 4 hours, I made 24 approaches. I got 18 phone numbers and 15 responses. Two chicks immediately wanted to smash me that night. I was showing Scotty the text messages for confirmation. One of them, a super hot Instagram lawyer. She just so these guys who say, "Oh, these are all dirty club rat chicks or whatever." Really, she owns her own law firm, and she, super hot chick that only hires hot chicks, and that was her entire brand. And I mean, I showed Scotty the text message where she's blowing me up with pictures and then saying, come to Zuma and seal the deal with me. And, I'm Catholic. I try not to do these things. That's a separate conversation. But the results are indisputable. And then the other one was another hot blonde chick. That was the one with the sunglasses on that I stopped, and she was just sort of hearing me out. It's always good, and Scotty taught me this, to do your due diligence and just close them when you can and when you're in front of them, because you just never know which ones pop through. It tends to be your best sets, but not always. And I even hit her with Scotty's line at one point and said, "Look, here I am glazing you up. What, you're not going to tell me I'm cute too?" And she goes, you're okay. I'm hearing you out. I'm right here in front of you. And I said, "That's it. I'm okay. You're hearing me out. What is this?" And you would have considered that lukewarm interest. And no, that was another chick that was sending me sexy photos and just saying, like, come over. So, you got two out of that. And then another three dates, one with a super hot, blonde haired, green eyed girl, 30 years old, who was coming out of the gym. And I mean, she kept telling me that she was having trouble maintaining eye contact. And then two more, that like really cute brunette chick. They're all white chicks. And that super hot French chick who did some sort of like marketing or modeling or both. They're all like that down here.
Wait, you had no
So
Latinas that day? I'm sorry to cut you up, but I
I
think
had
that
a lot of Latinas that day, but this is what me and you were talking about earlier that day. We'll go through the whole thing
yeah.
for your audience. No, I had plenty of Latinas that day, but those were the ones I really wanted. Every single one of them came through, except for the 22-year-old model chick, which we'll tell you these guys about. Every single
Okay,
one
so
of
we're
them.
going over the ones that so to make this clear, guys, or a little bit of context, he's gotten so good. Okay, so he's playing now at such a high level that he's living his life almost through the eyes of one of these women. You know what I mean? Where he's
Yes, what we were
now
just
has
talking about.
18 women in his funnel, basically. His
15 of them responded and were hitting me up.
yeah,
Yes.
within
And
a very
then,
short time. You made some tweaks, like we had him fire out the message like a lot quicker than usual. That was one change. I'm like, you might as well, dude. We
yep,
went to grab a bite to eat afterwards, and he sent some out, and he got some really interesting feedback. Like, two of them wanted
immediately.
to, yeah, seal the deal that night, which is just really remarkable, dude. It's a hell of a statement that like these girls are like, after he said no, I'll bring you to Del Rey, she kind of tempted him again with a sexy photo. It was like, dude, you made such a huge impact on these girls, dude. Like the momentum and the impact between that day, it was just at a level that I never seen really play. It was almost like we're playing in the hardest market yet, dude. If you would have did that on like the St. Louis JV league team, like it's still hard to do. The numbers are so astronomically good, the percentages. It was just a very, very special day, dude. It really was. The
It was a good day.
22-year-old, yeah, the 22-year-old, and it was very because D was like on a roll with a lot of the foot traffic stuff, the authoritative stops, and getting the girls on the street. And it was like I wanted to see him in a little bit different of a, see how he would do with seated sets, all sorts of different dynamics. And we passed this like group, this little two set sitting at the Moxie's or whatever. It's an outdoor little bar. And I was like, we passed them at first. And I'm like, dude, what do you think? And you're like, yeah, she's freaking hot, man. I'm like, well, then go do it. And he opened her up. And it was like, I don't know if initially she was like super into it, but it got pretty hot. Like within that conversation, I kind of went in there afterwards and started talking to the sister, chatting up the sister a little bit, who was also
I don't
really
know about
hot
that. I would say I got a good reception immediately.
off rip.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I'm pretty good at reading that. There weren't too many. The thing that was different about this than other sessions was that other sessions, there were always certain sets where I had to, through my behavior, turn it around,
Yeah.
build, build what little attraction was there. This time around, you've gotten me so good. There were multiple girls who were nervous interacting with me. And this isn't going to make a whole lot of sense to these guys who don't live in South Florida. Guys, these chicks are cutthroat professionals. I joke with Scotty all the time that they're the birds at the beach who should be afraid of human beings, but they're not. They'll get right up in your space. They'll start pecking at your beach bag because they're so used to human beings. These chicks walk around all day and they are so used to high status, chads, nightlife kings, yacht guys, firing on them and approaching them, that there's just no fear that any of these men could physically harm them. There's just no fear. And they have no problem immediately bulldozing you, walking right past you as if you're a homeless person or some kind of subhuman. They have no problem immediately telling you to just get away, F off, whatever. They have no problem with it. I actually prefer this market because I like real and rude over fake and friendly. I just have no use for fake and friendly. It saves everybody time, in my opinion. I understand most people are not like that. But for these chicks to actually be nervous as if I were some kind of a celebrity or immediately arousing them, that was new. And that happened at least 3 times that I can remember. One with the super hot blonde who was getting out of the gym, who I stopped, and then later took out on a date. I was actually just on a date with her on Tuesday. And you were right there. You just kept laughing. She said, "I'm having trouble maintaining eye contact with you." And I said something like, "Oh, there's nothing to be nervous about, baby. We're gonna give you a pass on that. We're gonna get you through this." I mean, you've gotten me so good at making impact and building momentum that it's even making Brickle girls nervous. And the other one was a super cute Latina. I just didn't like her as much as all the other chicks that I had in the queue. So when she was hitting me up, I'm the guy taking 2 or 3 days to respond to her. It's like you said, you've now gotten me to a place where I have the leverage in this market. I'm the guy going through his phone and deciding which ones I really like the best and responding to those first and inviting those out and booking time for those chicks first. And there's no other way to play this game. The dating market is simply apocalyptic at this point. Everyone knows it. So you can either play their game entirely and get online and just be another guy in their online queue and you're constantly sending them messages and they pick you, or you can get out there, build character as a man, pick the girls you want and make this kind of an impact on them. I mean, that Latina chick, you kept saying, dude, her hands were shaking when she was putting in her phone number into your phone.
Yeah, it was really a sight to see, man. It really was. I mean, I was really picking up stuff as well. Like we both kind of like trade notes. In fact, both of our games are slightly different from a verbal standpoint. I mean, I
For
would
sure.
say like from a framework thing, we kind of have a good foundation. We both have a really rock solid authoritative presence and everything like that. But when it comes to verbally, we have two totally different kind of strengths, and D is very, you could probably tell by the way he talks. He's almost the same exact person in set. He's very authoritative, he's very precise with his words. I'm here for you. There's not a lot of ums.
Yeah.
It's very commanding. He knows it too, that because he's been using it so well and it plays so well from a business standpoint, and it's brought him so many good results that oftentimes I tell him sometimes he leans on it a little too much because he'll let a girl walk past without
Yeah.
making the direct stop. And he still somehow will be able to still verbally call her over. But a lot of times I say that's just not optimal.
It's not.
Put the results aside. You'll let girls go by. You're still coming from behind a little bit. So I'm just not a fan of that. But I'm saying it to say that that's one of his strengths. His verbal almost dominance and his command. It plays really really well. But at times with these girls, the key with this game stuff, guys, is like you want to be really checking all the boxes, totally well rounded. These girls are so picky now. They're looking for any little reason to find a chick in your armor and deselect you. They want the charismatic guy who can make them laugh, who can put them in their place, check them when it's time to check them, who's, a porn star in bed. They want everything. They're looking for everything. And honestly, that's the type of guy that you're looking for. You do not want to be a one trick pony. So, like, D's thing was what I have with my verbals is a lot of like playful, funny, sly look, funny, flirtatious stuff. You were going to look at me like that and not say hello, and that type of stuff. When D added that, it totally kind of changed his game around to go
It
from
did.
that to this. Girls love that contrast. Whoa, like you're hitting me with this. I thought you were this way. You want to keep them guessing and on their feet with your personality. It doesn't always have to be in a mystery sense where he says things like take them to this place and that place. You can straight up do that with your personality if it's got so much depth and so much range, you
It's
know,
true.
where you can play a lot of different roles. You have good humor. You could be authoritative when need be. All that stuff needs to be going on for them to really be blown out of the water. And yeah, I think that really helped D turn his game around, as well as like when he's on fire verbally. And like there was one set that I was just like, dude, that was incredible. Like you literally, like, that girl was dripping wet after you said that. She was like, so why'd you guys come in here? And he's like, he
Oh
looked at her.
yeah.
He's like, I came in here for you. And she just like, whoa. Like, I know doesn't, you had to be there to feel it. Like, she just, her and her friend both were like totally taken back. Like, she was like shivering after he said that. It was just landed perfectly. And she just wasn't, I guess, expecting that answer. And, dude, that was a wrap. She was, you know, handing over the number. I think that girl was still trying to hang out with you and call you and set up a
She
date.
she she was, yes. That was another chick who was on vacation. She was a blonde Canadian chick.
Right.
And she was
Yeah.
on vacation and just here for a few days. And again, if I was that guy that just wanted to smash, then that was there. I just plain wasn't looking for that. I wanted chicks that were local or chicks that I felt more compatibility with. And, I just didn't really want that as much. But that was one of those things where I, the day started off kind of crazy where I saw this super hot brunette chick from across the street and followed her into a cafe. And, she ordered whatever she got, her coffee or whatever. And then when she turned around, I hit her with whatever I hit her with. And she said, I knew you would approach me. I saw you from across the street. And I said, really? My aura comes all the way down the block now. Like this is good. And she said, yeah, I've been, just today's been a really good day. And I've been inviting a lot of good things into my life. And I saw you and I knew you were going to approach me. And as this is going on, some hot Latina chick fires on you.
Yeah. So it
And
was
you
so
had to
crazy.
kind of bar off. Like, no, I'm watching my buddy run game. I need to give more feedback. I gotta be dialed in on this.
It was
So I
incredible.
mean, that was how the day started. And from there were just too many for me to even really remember. But the highlights were that one, the um the super hot blonde chick that I went out with on Tuesday, who said she had trouble giving eye contact. The really cute Latina chick where you said, "Look, I just want you to be more authoritative." You felt like I was relying too much on verbal and just giving them commands. And I said, "Okay." I always try to immediately apply whatever it is, whatever the coaching is.
And I think it's
And
gotten you tremendously better. I think that's what really expedited the process. Like without that, guys will continue to struggle, like that's why you are where you are and getting these types of results. I think these little minor tweaks, it's the little things that go a long way after a while. Like if you make the minor tweaks that I'm seeing and you immediately implement it, like what happens, bro? Like you see immediate changes almost
it's true.
instantaneously. I mean, I've never really led you astray
No,
when it comes
no,
to,
not at all. Not at all.
dissecting the game. Like I just, dude, I have a really, really good eye for it. I have a good gauge of where you are and what type of dude you are at this point, and it just continues to get better and better. It's a relationship. It's a, like each session gets better and better, and that's why you went about it extremely intelligent. And I do offer this like a 6 month at the very least, guys, if it, is to really start to internalize some of these things and really start to have a personality shift where your behavior is really, being changed. You need to first see it, watch me do it over and over again. And even assistant, D sometimes comes on these things and will show the guys, because a lot of guys will think it's just a Scotty thing, just some, rare genetic thing that I was born with or whatever. They don't even believe that once upon a time I was a shy, introverted dude with lots of insecurities. They don't believe it. So it's good to have multiple students and assistants. Now I have an assistant doing it at the pickup house, totally different archetypes altogether. And they're still
Yeah.
running essentially the same game. It's incredible. It works for everybody. We're tapping into something primal, and your masculinity balls. These are just foundational pieces that are now overlooked tremendously in society because everybody's selling you this. It's over with. You get online, you do this. They're two totally different things. If people just viewed this from the standpoint of, I'm just going to go out there and build up my social freedom. I'm so tired of living within the confines of my room, the phone, peer pressure of not saying hello to people, like think about like the cool kid in high school who didn't even know anything about pickup, but he was just a likable dude and he was a chick magnet. I knew of plenty guys like that, two or three at the very least. And it's just, that's what you kind of want to tap into. You don't want to learn game. I'm changing guys to tap into this aspect of their life. So it's a permanent thing so that you, like I say all the time, I wouldn't have met D. I wouldn't have met my current, assistant coach. It's like it basically game opened up everything for me. It opens up a lot of different doors because you're tapping into this part of yourself that is now, it's not just exclusive to women. Okay. The social freedom unlocked is not just exclusive to women. It opens up in the rest of your life. You're more ballsy, when you need to be. You're not nervous around your father or mother. You have better relationships. Every relationship should ultimately improve because you're really building a lot of character. You're letting your personality, be free, essentially. Like a lot of guys have been suppressing these things for so many years or just loads and loads of anxiety. And the system is designed for that, honestly. Like our structure in school, the curriculum is very isolated. We get a little bit of recess, but we're scared of each other, essentially. And we don't have enough experience and training to learn how to calibrate properly, read the room, be around people. We live in a very isolated society currently, and it's being pushed even more and more with technology. We've made tremendous technological advances, but it's hurt us in so many ways socially. Um, so we're just keeping the human spirit alive by going out there. We're making some woman's day. We're allowing her the room to tap into her true role, which is, to be feminine. A lot of these women are brainwashed to be boss babes and, be combative with men. It's insane. So it's really, I see more happy faces when guys really follow this than most men their entire life. And it's a very rewarding feeling for both me and the student. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was a remarkable day. It was a special day. Yeah, the day kicked off very uniquely, like girls were just eyeballing us and stuff like that. I don't know what was in the air, but to have the Latina follow me, I tried to even walk away from her to get a
Yeah, she
better
followed you
angle of
out.
it. She
Yep.
followed me across the room and was like, so, you kept asking me about my tattoos. Can you do my tattoos? I was like, listen, you don't want me to do your tattoos. She's like, no, 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 it's okay. It's okay. Like, this was a hot Latina with like a nice ass body,
She
like
was.
Brickle.
She was.
Yeah, it was crazy. So like, it was just a really cool day. And we can get more into the nitty gritty of like some of these sets. You mentioned your three favorite, but we're just trying to paint a picture of what it could look like where you're playing from the proper position as a man, where you're picking which ones you want to essentially look forward to and have which ones are you prioritizing. How often can you say that I'm prioritizing you over you, and then over you come first in my queue? Most guys don't even have a queue, let
No,
alone
no, they don't.
prioritizing certain women. So this is
Right.
what your life could look like, folks. Let me remind you, D is a 47-year-old guy, about, I would say,
46, but yes,
in a
yes.
couple of months. I'm sorry, I'm giving you an extra year, but in a couple of months. And in the most competitive market, you know, I'd say about average height at best.
Dude, I'm
Not
5'10" and change. Yeah. So
yeah,
average height.
average height. So guys, this is possible where this guy is ultimately now in a position where he's selecting, Brickle nines and tens, and he's a extremely unique case where he is Catholic and really trying to stay true to, the rules, basically, staying celibate, you know what I mean, until I guess I'm not quite sure, until he gets married, essentially. So, like, he's a very unique case, and yet he's putting himself in the line of fire with these women. It's extremely tempting, and it's extremely hard. And he's had plenty of slip ups. I don't even know how he does it.
Well, yeah.
Extremely difficult. Like, I went 7 years, but I was off grid. I mean, out of mind, out of sight. And when you don't use it, you lose it, kind of. It's kind of true, but being surrounded by that is absolutely absurd. And so anyway, it's like this is possible for you folks, but he's a unique case where, you know, his numbers would be literally insane. He'd have rotations right now. I mean, the testimonial would sound insane. Literally, dude, two girls that night were a slam dunk lock, possibly three. Now that you remind me of the one visiting from Canada, she
Yeah.
was still a
That's true.
go. She was
Yeah.
up and
That is
alive.
true.
So there's
That is true.
possibly three in one night, and then three others that lined up dates. So
Yeah.
that's that's pretty crazy. Three layups and three that you got out on dates. So that's what's possible for you guys. You know what I mean? And there were certain women that he's now letting certain girls go that he's like, was okay, like whatever, not a big deal. I don't again because he's playing the game a little bit different. He's not looking for a rotation girl. He's like most guys would be happy with. He's not looking for a quick hit. Right. So he's looking for a very, very, very specific thing, guys. So that makes it a lot more challenging, and he's willing to walk away from certain girls that 99% of guys would be happy to have in a rotation at the very least. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
I'd say that's fair.
that's fair. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's fair. So
Yeah. That was, but the real highlights were, at one point, I was just kind of on a roll. And by the way, there were some L's in there as well. There was a chick at the grocery store. We stopped at a Publix just to grab something, energy drink, whatever, water. And there was a hot. Oh, that was the married chick first. There was a hot married chick.
oh
You
yeah,
remember
I
that?
forgot about that one. That was
And
crazy.
I stopped her, did my thing, and she said, "Well, I'm married," and I was like, "Oh, no big deal." And then Scotty sees me afterward, and he said, "Yeah, dude, I knew the minute she showed you the ring, you were gonna leave because you don't do that." But that's not what she wanted. That's why she said something else to you afterward, and that's why she reached out her arm to you. It was like, no, this doesn't have to be over. I'm just giving you a factual piece of information.
Yeah,
I, you know,
I
I
don't think
don't.
she was expecting you to bow out that quickly. Like because she was her body language and expression was like, "Where are you going? Like, what's up?"
Yeah,
Like you hit her with some good stuff. Eventually, she got to the husband thing or married, and then immediately bowed out, but she was kind of just like looking like almost upset, like that he walked away, you know. To someone like
Yeah.
me, I would have ramped it up even more, unfortunately, but I just would have because she was giving me the green light, but it's because we don't know these situations, especially down in Brickell. They're very bizarre, like, paper marriages and sugar daddies. Like, I'm sure she's seeing some other guy, and, who knows? There's a lot of bizarre relationships like that down there,
That could be true, but I don't want to be involved in any of that either.
No, I don't blame you.
It's just the way that I am. But
Yeah, no
yeah, I
doubt.
mean, I did think it's funny that you can trigger these reactions, and these chicks really are like, well, where are you going? And then there was a hot blonde chick where, for whatever reason, I think maybe because of the angle, or she was pressed up against that shelf of wine bottles where I had a softer tone in my voice. I could tell she stepped back when I stepped forward into her space. And you said, dude, what are you doing? You're not like that. That was kind of meek. And I said, well, I noticed that she looked like she felt trapped and she stepped back. And you said, well, that's all fine. And this changed the whole day for me. You said, you're imposing your frame. Now, if you want to recalibrate after that, that's fine. But just the fact that she's nervous or jittery and all that, you're not helping yourself by going down to her level. And I said, you're right. And then you said, like, I want to see you be more authoritative with the next chick. And the next chick was, of course, 2 or 3 minutes later, as soon as we leave the grocery store, there was a hot blonde. It turned out to be a 22-year-old influencer, of course, and stopped her, did my thing, and grabbed her hand and pulled her toward us. Said, come here, come with me into the shade. And she showed similar resistance, right? She said, oh, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. And I was like, come here, come here. And was right in her grill. And that one also didn't work out. So, that was an L. But like you said, it's like you gave me direction. I immediately applied it. And then with the next chick, it hit. I think the next chick was that hot Latina chick that could like barely type in her own phone number.
Yeah. Was that the reddish hair one?
Yes. Yeah.
That girl
Yeah.
was shaking like a leaf. Like what ended up happening with her? I think she did respond, or she just
She
was one.
did. Yeah, she went after me. I just wasn't that into it.
Yeah,
She looked better from further away, and I just wanted to apply the directions you were giving me.
yeah. And it kind of feels nice a little bit after a while too. Like, you don't know until you fully know. I mean, there is a bit of mystery to it. You know what I mean? Like, had that girl really, potentially hit it off, and you liked her personality or whatever it may be,
Yeah, you never know.
you never
Right.
know. You never know with a lot of these things. Um, so like the 22-year-old Persian girl, I want to lean into that one a little bit because I thought that was a
So
very
yeah, so
impressive set.
Scotty is really good at a couple of things. One, 99, in fact, 100% of coaches, with the exception of Scotty, would have just said, dude, you're doing awesome. Just keep doing what you're doing. Scotty, if I'm even off for one set, can immediately course correct you and say, hey man, it's your frame that you're imposing. You want to calibrate on her response after that. That's all fine. But it's your frame, it's your world. And that changed everything for me for that day. The other thing Scotty's really good at is stretching your comfort zone no matter what. There was, when we first started working together, I didn't even want to go into stores to hit on chicks. Now I
Mhm.
chase them into cafes, don't even order anything. When they say, oh, are you getting something? I just tell them, no, I'm here for you. Um, and sometimes go into just exclusively women's stores, Sephora, whatever, if there are a bunch of hot chicks in there. You've gotten me there, but he will always look toward extending your comfort zone and extending your social freedom, because that's the only way to get good at anything. If you look at the best guys in any craft, they were constantly looking for ways to make themselves uncomfortable and expand their range. And that's what Scotty will do for you. So at some point, I was just racking up so many wins on the street. Scotty said, "Hey, I want to see you in some different circumstances. How about some seated sets? Girls having dinner by themselves in restaurants and stuff." And you pointed out these two hot Persian chicks. One of them looked like she came straight out of a magazine. Of course, as it turned out,
Incredible.
she was a model. These two Persian chicks, and I just went right up to the one I wanted. And I think I got a pretty good reception off the bat. It was extreme eye contact. And you and the sister were like narrating what was going on between us at one point as I was sliding my hand under and like squeezing her thigh, touching her hair, stuff like that. What were you guys saying?
Okay, so this was a fun one because like I that was a nice lead in, by the way. I wasn't even expecting you to turn all that into where we were going with the seated set, but it was like me and the sister and I would say it went pretty well. She responded to me, and I
Yeah,
just have it, since I moved, I kind of like fell off with a lot of these girls. Again, I play from such a state of abundance, and every day I'm filling up the funnel that I do have the tendency to forget a lot of these older leads if they don't really come through. But she was going back and forth with me, and she was a pretty hot chick, dude. They were both sisters, and we were narrating this like he said, and she was telling me things like, oh wow, I've never seen her like that. Like we're not that far, mind you, from these two. He's like really in each other's face to the point where like lips are almost touching, zoned in, piercing, searing eye contact. You know, we're sitting there narrating. The sister's telling me this. This woman, this girl, the sister's not even moving, just complete and utter tunnel vision for D, like in another galaxy. Like it was incredible to watch. And she was just sitting there, like, I'm like, so these two are really hitting it off, huh? And that girl barely even flinched. Like we were saying these things and the girl didn't even move. That's how enthralled she was with him. You know what I mean?
that
And
was
to
a
the
good
point where
sign.
the sister was saying, like, I've never seen her like this. It was incredible. And this is a 22-year-old, like,
Senior in
model.
college.
Yeah, model. It's insane. I thought the sister was hot, but that one put her to shame. Like, the sister was really pretty hot. She was
She
stacked.
was. She was.
So I liked her a lot. And, yeah, dude, it was really an impressive set. And the distance he closed, the amount of sexual tension, I could feel it from across the table. It was so
It was
well
palpable.
done. It was so well done that sexual tension was off the hooks. It looked like the beginning of a porn scene. I always tease D about that. I'm like, it looked like you two could have just went at it right then and there. It was really a sight to see. It was fun to watch, and you really gotten a lot better. Again, like he was saying earlier, like this is someone who wasn't really doing that many, even two sets initially.
I wasn't.
Just looking for lone wolves, which is crazy. Like he wasn't doing hired guns. He wasn't really even walking into
No,
stores. So
no.
he makes a great point about the social freedom aspect, boys. I think I made a kind of like controversial video. Like when I started the channel, I just said something like, I think social freedom is like 75% of the equation. Once you get that almost maxed out, like everything else will kind of come naturally with just some minor tweaks here and there. But those are the guys like me and my assistant coach were talking about today. He's like, you're right, man. He's like, the guys that were getting laid that I knew, he goes, they were just ballsy kids that always took shots. And guess what? It's like that ended up pretty well for those guys. You know what I mean? In
Yep.
terms of girls liking them, because guess what? We tend to think more guys are taking shots. Oh, he's good looking, this and that. But women are naturally, they're just not proactive. They give, what is it, like covert hints or something like that? Or what is it, the opposite of it? Or just you
Yeah, they
know,
give subtle hints.
subtle hints here and there, but like they're not going to proactively go for it. I've seen it many, many times down in Brickell. Like there's been really good looking guys to like just be standing there, posted up. A hot girl will walk by and he'll say something to her. And she looks and smiles, like gives him a green light, handsome dude. And she keeps walking and he's standing still post up. And she's
Yep.
like, well, do something. And he's like, just froze up and didn't even finish the deal. Like, it
Yep.
was ridiculous. So a lot of guys are just not, we tend to overrate these guys and think they're like fantastic or something like that. But women are going to ultimately end up, if you look at their resume, they give you all these crazy requirements. They want this guy, they want this guy, they want Leonardo DiCaprio, but why is it that they ended up sleeping with a whole bunch of these guys over here? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't ever really add up because that's not the way it works. They end up going for, sometimes we talk about it all the time. Timing is everything. It really is. It's like
Oh yeah.
if you
Oh
catch
yeah.
that girl at the right time, coming out of a relationship or something. And that's what was going on with Dee's Persian girl, the 22-year-old. When I was talking to the sister, she was giving me some insight into the situation at hand. They had a lot going on. That girl was apparently, kind of like getting out of a really rocky relationship with a guy.
Yep.
Apparently was very toxic and like hunting her down, all sorts of stuff that, maybe is a reason why she was hesitant to get back to him initially, though she did end up getting back to him ultimately, but it was really incredible, man. It just really was.
Yeah,
Um,
dude. And I think I told you it's a weird thing. You have one of these epic days, and this is when you talk about pre-selection. Other people just sort of come out of the woodwork. There was a girl that I hit on in January with Johnny, super tall, hot, blonde, 26-year-old in Design District. And we were going back and forth, and then she just flaked off, right? Like, I can't remember if we had something scheduled or not, but she ultimately just flaked off. Comes up, just pops up out of nowhere, apologizing, saying that she was on her own healing journey. And it's like, look, no worries, and now I'm trying to fit that chick in before my next trip mid next week.
Yeah,
So
I think D's always been apprehensive to like accept when I say things like this, that dude, there's just something to it. Like it's almost undeniable and laughable at this point that when you're cooking, it's kind of like when you have a girl, all of a sudden you're getting more eyeballs and stuff like that. Or, like I always say, the pre-selection effect is not only just being side by side with a girl walking into a club, it's literally after being on fire and getting like seven girls previously approving of you and being interested in you, basically checking you off, liking you. You're getting all these girls riled up. Girl number 8, she senses something different. Something's going on. You are pre-selected essentially at
I
that
agree.
point. You know what I mean?
I
So it's a
agree.
really impressive thing to do. So guys don't ever think of it from that perspective, but it's like you are, especially within a very small sphere, which Brickell happens to be. Like, I feel like the smaller the area, it's kind of like a nightclub. If you're hitting on all these girls and they're like, they would all be coming to your table essentially, and other people would be seeing that,
Yes.
because you're getting all these chicks excited into you, to the point where these
Oh,
aren't just numbers anymore. Like, D started
it's
where he was collecting numbers. No longer. It's just like these are conversions, and I would say the one thing that he may run into, because since he's such a unique case and religious and stuff like that, is that the style of game is so sexually forward and he's charging them up so much that there is a little bit of a congruency issue when they come around on the dates, because it's almost like they're expecting the guy that was there, to seal the deal. In fact, I think he's got one girl coming in from LA and
I do,
he's
yeah.
like, we're not going to do it this weekend or whatever. And she's like, yeah, yeah, okay, pal. That type of response. And it's like that's what I mean, because there's these girls are that type of game he's presenting. They're probably like, whoa, what the hell? Like they're expecting this dude who's just going to run through them and steamroll them. It's like that's where I think it's going to be. Listen, one girl's got to be okay with it and cool with it, and the contrast, they have to accept it. But that is a very interesting dynamic. In fact, I've never really seen it before. It's very, very interesting, because the fact that he's even drawn to my style of game is very, very unique. But I still think it can absolutely work. But I just believe that there is an opening now where the relationship to me doesn't start until the woman is intimate with you. That's what I've always thought. Up until that point, you're just another guy, a bubble in her phone, and that's really it. I just think that that's when they have to make the decision of whether or not they're going to pursue you. You know what I mean? But again, it's a tough, unique situation, and I don't know if I quite have the answer to it. It's probably the first time I've seen it. So
Well, I mean, I came to you because I realized, you kind of hear this from some of these guys in the manosphere, right? They might be church going guys, and then they say, but I don't really want a relationship with one of these so-called church girls because they don't really believe in it, and they don't select the church guys. They're out there dating the guys like you, Scotty. They're out there dating the tattoo artist or whatever. And I just
mhm.
accept that this is the lay of the land. And the only way to make an impact on these girls these days is extreme, immediate emotional impact. And there's nothing stronger than a sexual connection between a man and a woman. That's it. So I simply accepted this is how it is. I mean, that's, I guess, a little bit of the business guy in me, right? I don't really spend a lot of time saying, well, it should be this way or it ought to be this way, or I wish it was back in the I don't
Yeah,
know, early 2000s. That does nobody any good. It's
you're right.
just, this is the way things are. I don't have to like it. I can compete in this environment or not. How do I best compete? So that was my thinking. And my thinking was correct, because now I've got, whenever I do a session or just whenever I feel like doing something. My cousin was down here. It was the Monday before our session. My
Hmm.
cousin was down here and he had never been to Miami. And I said, sure, I'll show you around Brickell and Design District. And, he thinks my behavior is entertaining. And I think I even sent you the picture of this, where I chased down this super hot blonde chick. My cousin's watching me do this. I'm amping her up. And she said, look, I gotta go. I got this class I gotta teach. And I said, okay, fine. And she left. And I said, oh, that chick was super hot. And we walked 10 or 20 feet and we walked past her billboard. She was like a fitness model on one of the billboards in Brickell. And I took a picture of it, sent it over to you. I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah,
That had never happened to me before. But I can do this at will whenever. It's a weird kind of superpower. And I'm not saying that I don't have off days. I do. I think everyone does. But you and I have talked about this before. It's whether or not you're resilient, right? You've also seen me go like 0 for 6 or 0 for 7 straight in Brickell before I turn it around.
yeah, yeah. Game
That
is not
wasn't
a
this
static.
last time, but yeah.
Game is not a static thing. I always say this, man. It's a very volatile thing, and that's the beauty of it, and that's why it does tap into your like your grit and your overall resilience and stuff like that. Like your intestinal fortitude is being tested in these moments. Like D always says this, like something good is about to happen. How many guys have that mindset when things are kind of spiraling downward, right? How is that not tapping into a part of you that, oh no, I'm waving the white flag, you're traumatized and you're done, you're cooked for the day. I've had so many students literally tap out, and didn't even finish the session, right? I mean,
Yeah, this
it's
is
hard.
completely the wrong way to think. It's
It's
completely the
sometimes
wrong
they've
way
had
to go.
enough. Sometimes
Yeah.
they've just had enough. If they're just things aren't going the way they want it to go. And I've been doing this for so long that I know that even when things are going really bad, and I think I learned this very early on, like within the first year of, I would say my pickup journey or whatever. Like my sister got married in Vegas, and I went with my best friend Danny, and we got a room together. He stayed in that night, but I of course I learned this skill, and now I'm out, firing like usual. And I was hitting a Vegas club, and I was just doing awful. Like just nothing was sticking,
Hmm.
doing really, really, really bad. Again, this is
Hmm.
very early on in the pickup when I started, probably a year in tops. And dude, at the end of the night, I just kept going. And I actually, at one point, I left the club and I'm like, all right, whatever, it's over. If I see something on the way back, I'll take it. So there was a girl like by the slots or whatever, like casino, cute girl from Canada, this cute brunette. And bang, I just went for it and we hit it off. We started, there was a lot of physical contact. She was just really hooked right away and drawn to me. So I was like, I invited her up. And next thing you know, I'm banging her. My best friend Danny is in the bed right next to me, eating chips, watching and laughing as I'm smashing this girl. So it was a riot. It was one of those things that I'll never forget because it was so interesting. One, that I was there, on my sister's wedding, sharing a room with my best friend, and I'm a year into the game, having a horrible night. And all of a sudden, I just stuck with it and took another good shot. And that happened to be the shot that came up to the room with me, a hot brunette from Canada, and I had an amazing night. It's just a really epic story to start out my, journey, so to speak. So it was like that builds moments like that build resistance. Out of all the years, you remember these moments, these key moments that were like, yeah, that was really, that built some resiliency in me for sure. No
You're always
doubt.
going to be rewarded for perseverance.
Right. Nothing good
No
in life,
one,
like you always say, isn't earned.
no one ever says, "I'm really glad I quit." That's you're always going to be rewarded for perseverance.
Didn't you say like, yeah, nothing good in life isn't earned or something like that?
That's
Yeah,
also true.
yeah,
Things in life that are worthwhile are difficult and take time and perseverance. There's
yes.
nothing there's nothing out there that's easy, that's worthwhile.
Dude, 3 years ago, maybe going on four now. I mean, I was homeless. Okay, so now I'm reconnected thanks to game. It had muscle memory and it bounced back, and through the grace of God, obviously. But like it wasn't because I put all that time and effort into building character to be able to go from living on the streets to now, being pretty busy with the business and helping guys out and meet their dream girls. And now, my dream was always to have a pickup house. And guess what? Now it's started. This is our second iteration of it, the second cycle of it. And there's already guys booked for it. It's really a remarkable testament. And I really owe it all to devoting myself to game. I was so sick of it and tired of suffering. It really is a brutal, brutal lot in a man's life if they just accept the matriarchy and essentially just take the first piece of ass that comes their way. The woman, happy life, happy wife. That stuff is true. I would say the majority of men are in relationships where, the woman is in, she's essentially winning the power dynamic. There's always a
Dude,
power
it's going to
dynamic.
get worse. It's going to
Yeah,
get worse. I mean,
right.
we are now seeing we're now seeing celebrities, at least internet celebrities, like that Akash guy. And have you seen this latest Larry Wheels guy? I mean, he just gets absolutely smacked around by his wife, who, by the way, he met in Dubai. I mean, Dubai makes Miami look like Leave It to Beaver neighborhood. So, he meets this Dubai Russian or Serbian chick, black guy, just gets completely owned by her, and he's like a 300-pound black guy. He just gets bossed around by his chick who talks over him. I mean, it's crazy.
You're right,
And
man,
that's the
because
other
now
thing.
the good thing about the internet, and there's not much that I like about it, I'd be willing to abolish it tomorrow. I know people would be up in arms. It would be COVID 2.0. But like the good thing is that there's so much access to these celebrities and people, and there's always a camera on everybody, and there's everybody's chasing clout and virality that this probably has been happening, but now we're getting a chance to actually see it. And it really does go, a lot of the stuff we're seeing goes against the red pill. A lot of it even goes against the black pill. And that's why, good old cold approach pickup prevails at the end of the day. You're building character and it never goes away. Like I said all the time to D, as long as there's women outside, there will be an innate primal instinct to want to seduce and get with that woman. Okay. And as long as that's suppressed and you have what we call the exorcist head, where you turn and don't do anything for the rest of your life and you play life on the sidelines, it's like that's going to forever haunt you. You know what I mean? Every time at the beginning that I let a girl that I thought was attractive just pass me by and I didn't take action due to fear, it would haunt me for the rest of the day. She'd be living rent free in my
True.
brain.
It's
So
true.
I would rather get fuck off than let that happen again, because that's way more torturing feeling for me. You know what I mean? So you guys have to make a decision. You know what I mean? It's got to be viewed very seriously. But nowadays, unfortunately, there's a third option. The third option wasn't available when I came into the pickup world and dating world. Okay. It was either you get good at women, get good at talking to women in person, or forever suck and have a really, really horrible life. Hope that you stumble upon a woman, my bodybuilding mentor, Dave, telling me that don't worry, all the blue pill advice, when you diet for a bodybuilding show, girls will find you more attractive, all the blue pill advice in the world. But just like, I knew I had to take action. It's the ultimate form of, taking action and doing something for yourself. But like I said, nowadays, you guys out there listening to this, you have this third option, which is actually holding you back. And I'm getting a wave of a ton of new clients that are coming to me with over hundreds of bodies from the internet who still feel empty inside and feel like a pussy deep down inside, feel like a coward, because when they see women in public, they can't do anything about it. So there's not much overlap, folks. It's two different lanes. Yeah, you may get some action, you may get it, on the internet, and it looks and appears as if they're similar things, but they're really not. One is simply just looking for the lay or whatever. The other one is actually happening as a byproduct. It's just happening as a byproduct of being a socially free, cool individual who sees what he wants and goes for it. I found my girlfriend. I always say the story in the Wyndham Hotel, hoodie on with my dad. We're checking out, and here she comes around the bend. I wasn't looking, wasn't gaming, and bang, I go, just because I've rewired my brain, and it now sees that and goes without hesitation. So it does take some training, folks, because that stuff, that fast twitch fiber, that instinct is not developed. It's just a muscle in anybody that can be developed. And it's once you get it established, the removal of all hesitation and what GLL like to call like killer instinct, once that is developed in you, you forever have that. You see, you go. It doesn't matter if you have social momentum, doesn't matter if you're not mass approaching, doesn't matter if there's no volume. You could be sitting there with a hoodie on, waiting to leave a hotel, and bang, there's your next girlfriend. You just don't know, and that's the beauty of game. And you got to try it. And as my old coach used to say, Brad P., you have to unturn every stone. You just don't know. So I don't know, boys. It's a crisis, you guys, out there, because the internet is what's keeping a lot of guys back. I don't have time. It's very convenient. All the other dating coaches out there are pushing it. I really don't push it. I'm not a fan of it. I think you should, if you're ever going to do it, if I give you the green light to do it, you better damn well have this as your base. You better be getting leads from cold approach. And then if you want to play around with it once in a while, by all means do it. But I'm still even not a big fan of it because it reinforces a lot of bad, beliefs. It's the woman's wheelhouse. And when you see me on the apps, that's not a good sign. That means that either one, I'm in a bad market that's really dry, that's decentralized with not a lot of women outside. That's a bad sign when I'm on the apps. It's not good. Like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to resort to that anymore. I don't want to emasculate myself anymore. You know, I'm better than that. You know what I mean? Like, that's basically handicapping me, letting these entitled bitches that are just going off your picture, swiping through the phone. The other day, me and Daniel, my roommate, we matched with the same girl, and she's doing the same thing with all these guys. You know what I mean?
Sure.
There's
Sure.
nothing special about it. There's nothing earned about it. It's a totally different lane, folks. And it's a way to keep you, trapped in this hamster wheel and never becoming socially free is what you really want. Because these guys had to realize, my roommate, that once Tinder banned his account, they could do that. They have control over your dating life. They have control of when you get laid. Okay. Once they stripped that from him, he felt empty, scared, and broke. And that's when he reached out for coaching. Okay. So don't let it have to go to that. Do it now. Delete the app if you suck at cold approach and wanting to meet women in real life, and rely on that. Do it now and absolutely take action. Book a session and stick with it. It takes time, and be patient. Like we kept saying over and over again, anything good in life is always earned. Okay. So I'm proud of these accomplishments. I would not be here this many years later, still involved with this, because I give it, I all the credit in the world goes to, me deciding to make that move and make that decision, and it really paid off. It really did pay off. It will change your life, folks. It will really change your life, and for the better. It really will, because you want to be in a position of some sort of power where you have the leverage in the relationship, where you're playing from the standpoint of the woman. You're leveling the playing field completely, and we have the ability to go above the woman, because guess what? The woman has baked in abundance. Okay. We have to create abundance for ourselves. And once we earn it and create it for ourselves, we then are selecting, from a more logical standpoint. I think a lot of these women are just overwhelmed with this, and their ability to read a room and actually read people, because they're not training that skill at all. And to pick guys wisely is really blurred and discolored. They're drawn by the flashy things. They're extremely emotional. So any old Tom, Dick, and Harry can charge them up. I was living in my mom's basement and I was banging out really, really hot girls. So like they just get emotional. So we can actually be playing from a far superior position if we want to. That's why they always say the elite guys, they have usually a harem of women that have no choice but to keep going back to this guy, because they cannot go back to dating, Joey at the delicatessen. You know what I mean? Who has no game whatsoever. So they almost have to become that subordinate woman to somebody like that. They like feeling in their natural role and feeling that feminine energy inside of them. So,
Sure. Well, it's two things. One, I guarantee you, I shouldn't say guarantee, but it would not shock me at all if both Akash and this Larry Wheels guy met their wives online while they were in those cities, Dubai or wherever that Akash guy was maybe doing a show. And two things associated with that. One, the chick really doesn't have a great story about meeting you, right? What is she? I can't tell you how many times now I've been to a wedding where they said, "Oh, guess who I just matched with? It was this guy." And they just kind of gloss over the whole meeting. The most important part of the fairy tale is completely missing, because they just have to say, well, it was a data gap. I matched with this guy. We texted. It's completely missing. That's number one. So if you meet her in person, you've got ingrained respect. Number two is exactly what Scotty just talked about. You met her and you got her cold and out of thin air. You now have ingrained respect and you've got implied abundance. She knows if you did it with her, you can do it with other girls.
they tend to overvaluate you too. Like the other day, some girl that I've been hooking up with, she's like, I was like, we were talking about the rejection thing. I'm like, yeah, I get rejected by girls. She's like, no way, no way. Like, almost thought I was
Yeah,
like,
that's the hilarious thing.
yeah. They're like,
When
no
you
way you
meet
get
them like
rejected.
this and you spike their emotions like this and they give you the Chad tier treatment, they find it unbelievable that any other woman on the planet would not give you similar Chad tier treatment. They think that's insane.
Because we put them through such an incredible spike in their feminine. I mean, we've snapped escorts out of their role and slept with a lot of escorts. I did that were working. You know what I mean? Because, dude, it's like this is primal. That just goes to show you that whatever role you want to play, baby, you're gonna feel, your natural feminine energy and be in that role that you're supposed to be in. You know what I mean? They snap out of it. They get disassociated. They're on that emotional high and that they probably haven't felt in years, if ever. You know what I mean? It wasn't until D actually walked off with one time. I'm like, nice. He got the layup. And then he came back and she goes, yeah, she eventually snapped back into her role or whatever. So once you give it a little too much time to simmer, they start to think again and get back in their head. But it
Yep.
really is like they are disassociated completely. And it happens to my clients a lot as well, too, because when the girl's on that emotional roller coaster, the guy is also lost in the present moment, which is wonderful. He hasn't felt that in years. He's glowing. Sometimes I'll be talking to him like, great job, dude. You did this well. You did that well. He's not listening to me. He's like, dude, just give me a minute. Give me a minute to just simmer down, man. I'm not really, I'm not really there. It's hilarious, and it's
Yep.
like D always says, he goes, you are the DHV at that point, right? You don't need to tell some silly story to DHV Spiker. Cold approach has become so rare that when you just show that authoritative presence and your ability to sweep this stranger off her feet and fulfill her romance novel, that's a built-in fucking DHV right there.
It's
You
true.
know, you know what I mean? It's like that's all you had to do was just do your thing, sweep her off her feet. This girl thinks you are, like he said, a Giga Chad because she thinks you're slaying you can get any girl, and they're now coming from an inferior position, a subordinate, however you want to say, you're the leader, you're the head of the house, and it's like that's the way natural order was supposed to be, not the way it is now where you're, just choreographing a scripted date online. Some random girl comes over, blows you, fucks you, and then leaves. It's like, you don't want that. It's an empty life, dude. If, it may feel good temporarily, but you're really not getting anything outside of the temporary pleasure of sex. That's about it. You're not changing inwardly at all. Your day-to-day life. You're not improving your other relationships. Okay. Game is not in a vacuum. Like I said, when I did this, other things started to change as well. Other people were affected by my personality. They were happy to see this. My relationship with my dad improved. My mom. I have way better friendships now. Dee is one of my best friends. Okay. We have great conversations about anything. You know what I mean? This is all because of game and tapping into my personality. My bodybuilding mentor, Charlie Arms, said to me when I was 19 with tears coming down my eyes because I was taking some girl who obviously I was my Akash Singh story, taking her to
Right.
Hawaii. And he said to me, listen, you really need to work on your personality. And I don't know, it sounds like nothing, but the way he said it, because this guy was the epitome of masculinity. Like it's just like when he stepped in the room, what he said, you listened. And it was like, I just felt it. It was like, man, I really need to work on my personality. I was like a gym cell kid allowing these women to walk all over me, and I know people don't believe me when they're out with me now, but that's how much of a transformation and how much growth you can experience if you really just put yourself out there. You just got to put yourself out there, be with the right mentor, be with the right wings, have a good support, and you'll start to make progress. Your baseline and your floor is always being lifted so that on those off moments, my ex would always tell me that story. Like you said, dude, that first impression is huge. I can't believe the way you met me was incredible. Like you had so much balls and courage and this and that. Like, how'd you do that? Like we loved talking about our meeting and our story. It really like was always good to go down memory lane. You know what I mean? So
And it's great to talk about that on these dates. Like when I was out with that hot blonde chick on Tuesday,
yeah,
I was that was how I got her in, right? I said, "Hey, don't worry, I'm not going to make you make eye contact with me," or
I
something
love
like
that.
that.
Yeah, I love that. I love
Um,
that. It's a lot of call. They call it like callback humor. We even,
yeah,
on the date, on the phone. It's all good stuff.
yeah, yep.
It
And
really is,
guys,
dude.
if you're not going to do this now, then when? Because the market's not magically going to get any better. It's going to get worse. So if you're not going to do it right now, then when? Are you just waiting for things to get worse, to get more difficult? I don't understand it. But Scotty took me, a guy who I think you've described me as somebody who had above average looks, experience, and social freedom, and got me to an elite level where I can get down there and in 4 hours just fill up my phone with hot chicks' phone numbers. And then I'm the guy with leverage. I'm the one taking my time to reply to them because I've got other chicks I want to see first.
And you want to surround yourself with people like that, man. Everybody just around you gets better. It's iron sharpens iron. You know what I mean? You are the summation of the five closest people to you, really. Like it's true. Like you get better. D makes me a better person. He elevates my thinking. You have to be sharp around him or else you're not going to be able to hang. Or when you're around me gaming, you gotta be
I
sharp
got
or
to
I'm
be
gonna get
tight. Yeah.
I'm going to get on you. I will not just give unsolicited advice, but if a guy's looking for a little bit of help, I will absolutely not hold anything back, folks.
Well,
You
yeah,
know, I
that's
love to
what I
do it. I
want.
want to
Right.
get in there. I'm going to tell you the things that most dating coaches won't tell you. If they soar D's game, because I get a lot of above average guys who have a lot of sexual experience. And what most dating coaches say to these guys is just they become cheerleaders. Good job, man. Just keep it up. Keep running volume. You're doing
Yep.
great. Because they don't know another level. But there is another level to this. And game is not static. We have off days or we slack off. If I had somebody on my shoulder every time that, dude, what are you doing there? Dude, I want you to repeat that again and do another one. Do another, like that was weak. That was some weak
Yep.
stuff you got there.
Yep.
The best pitchers have some bad fastballs occasionally when that have big arms. So like it just happens, man. Like, Tom Brady, the best quarterback in history of the sport, he had a personal quarterback coach.
Yeah.
He always had that chip on his shoulder of being a sixth round draft pick. And I think it's a great story that despite 6 Super Bowl rings, being a giga chad, like he still acted as if, I have a lot to get better at. I can improve. There's always room for improvement. My bodybuilding mentor, Dave, gave me a plaque when I was 19. I competed in the bodybuilding nationals, teenage. It said like always be learning. I think it was like a Socrates quote or something like that, but it's true. You always want to be learning and growing. There doesn't have to be a ceiling to this because life doesn't quite work like that. There's off days, there's moods. Not every girl's going to light up with enthusiasm. So it's how you essentially recalibrate. It's extremely important, if not the most important part of game, is the ability to calibrate and be adaptable. That's why I don't mind where people send me, and I can fly out to your city, my city, wherever. And each market, you just have to have the good calibration to readjust because each market is not the same. Brickell game is a different speed than Atlanta game, and so on and so forth. So you have to be very well versed, and that helps at your game. That's the next level for D2. I want to start taking him to places that he's not in his territory, so to speak. Like I want some unfamiliar territories and keep expanding it. So it's just like he's still the same guy anywhere. I know I'm gonna show up in Chinatown in LA, in fucking 6th Street in Austin, in Charleston, South Carolina. Bring me there and I'll be fine. You know what I mean? It'll take me some
Mhm.
time. I'll feel the situation out. And I just have gotten good at reading that and feeling out the environment and the tempo and how the people act, and all that stuff needs to be felt, and you have to be on the same page with it in order to know what tool are you going to use today? Am I going to just, oh, okay, these people are just strolling around design district. This isn't going to need these big step in front authoritative hits. It's just going to be
Mhm.
something a little more subtle, and that's all it's going to take. They're a little more warm and welcoming to speaking to strangers. Each environment has a different level of permissibility, right? That's why I'll take a beginner who's getting destroyed in Brickle and say, listen, you need some W's. Let's bring you to a lounge or a bar tonight. It's going to be a lot easier for you. Those girls are expecting to be hit on. They love the attention. You'll get an Instagram, you'll get something, and you need to taste some victories with certain guys that really, really struggle with day game, which is the real testament. And that is the one thing that is sustainable throughout your life. You'll never age out of day game. You know what I mean? Walking down a boardwalk, you may see an attractive woman. If you happen to be single later in your life, you may need to utilize this skill set, and these tools need to be used. So you should always be sharpening them and enjoy the process. And the action is the juice. It's the truth. So it will be the best. It will change your life, and it's the best decision I ever made. It's the one thing that really changed my life. It got the ball rolling. There was no turning back. Once the floodgates were opened, there was no going back to the old self. Once I seen that I can talk to strangers, talk to hot girls, get them excited, interested. They wanted me to talk to them, get numbers, get makeouts. That's all I needed to see, folks. That's it. It wasn't a bunch of lines. It wasn't a bunch of material. I was given one good opener and ran with it all weekend as a 21-year-old kid. And I never went back from there. So it's up to you guys. It's really up to you. But it really isn't going to get any better. And you have way more distractions than I did back in 2008. You know what I mean? I couldn't go run to the computer. And I didn't have a bunch of other voices on YouTube telling me that, cold approach is dead. The best ROI is, social circle. The best ROI is this, that, online, running ads. Yeah, like, I get it. It's hard out there. You're listening to a bunch of different people telling you that to do all these other things. It wasn't like that back then, but you have to make a decision. If you clicked on this video, you definitely know you're in the right place.
It's true. Just work with Scotty. He'll make you better.
All right, D. I think we covered up a lot. I don't know if there's any other one that we did miss. I think we hit on a lot of these girls or a lot of these key situations.
I think so. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, boys. It was
Great
a pleasure
talking to you. Great talking to you,
as always.
boys.
Yep. All right, guys. Take care. So listen, guys, tap in with me. Coaching, get your game leveled up. I'll be dropping some more infield in the very near future. And book a session right now. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.